There is a specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. It is the feeling of a good salary that somehow never turns into savings. You are not reckless. You do not buy sports cars. And yet, at the end of every month, the account is flat. In 2026, more and more Canadians describe themselves as margin poor. Not broke, margin poor. The money comes in, and then it quietly leaks back out. Here is the truth most people miss. You are almost never bankrupted by one big luxury. You are bled by the slow puncture. A slow puncture does not blow the tire on the highway. It just loses a little air every single day until one morning the wheel is flat and you have no idea when it happened. That is what a dozen invisible daily expenses do to your budget. Wealthy Canadians did not stop enjoying their lives. They did something quieter and far more powerful. They performed a manual override on 5 specific drains. Today, we are going to walk through all 5 and the better alternative for each one. Let us begin. The first drain arrives on your phone. It is food delivery, Uber Eats, and Skip. And the reason it hurts so much is what I call the triple dip. Watch how it works. First, the restaurant quietly raises its menu prices on the app to cover the platform's cut, so you are already paying more than you would at the counter. That is dip 1. Then the app adds its own service fees and a delivery charge on top. That is dip 2. And finally, the screen asks you for a tip, usually preset at 18, 20, or 25%. That is dip 3. Stack all 3 together, and the math turns brutal. In 2026, a $50 order of actual food can carry more than $25 in extra charges before you even add the tip. A quick dinner for 2 comfortably lands at $70. Now here's the better alternative. Those same 2 dinners, the chicken, the rice, the vegetables, bought from No Frills, cost you about $14. $14 of groceries versus $70 delivered. You are not paying for food. You are paying 5 times over for the privilege of not walking to your own kitchen. Wealthy people cook on weeknights, not because they must, because they refuse to be triple dipped. The second drain lives at the gas station, and it is dressed up to sound like you are taking care of your car. There is a very Canadian instinct to reach for the button marked Premium, or Supreme, or 91 Octane, at Petro-Canada, or Shell. It feels responsible. It feels like the higher number must be better, but here is what the marketing will never tell you. Octane is not a measure of quality or energy, it is simply a measure of how much the fuel resists knocking. For roughly 95% of the commuter vehicles on Canadian roads, engines are designed and tuned for regular 87 octane. They extract exactly 0 extra mileage and 0 extra power from the expensive stuff. So think about what that premium button actually does. Every fill-up, you are pouring an extra $10 into the tank, and it drains straight back out through a hole. It is a leaking gas tank. You put the money in, and it dribbles onto the pavement before you ever leave the station. Week after week, tank after tank, you are paying a premium for a benefit your engine literally cannot use. The better alternative could not be simpler. Open your owner's manual, or look at the little sticker inside the fuel door. Unless it says the word required, not recommended, required, you fill up with regular, and you drive away with the same performance and $10 still in your pocket. The third drain is the quietest and, by a wide margin, the most expensive. It is the fee on your investments, the management expense ratio, or the MER. Canadians pay some of the highest investment fees in the entire developed world, most of it flowing straight to the big 5 banks. When you sit down and a friendly advisor puts you into a bank mutual fund inside your RRSP or your TFSA, that fund very often carries an MER of around 2.2%. You never see a bill. It is skimmed silently from your returns, every single day, before the money ever reaches you. 2.2% sounds tiny. It is not. Compare it to an all-in-one ETF that does the same job, holding the whole global market for around 0.2%. That is a gap of 2 full percentage points, working against you, year after year, decade after decade. Let me show you what that gap costs a real person. Take a Canadian steadily investing toward retirement over 30 years. The difference between paying 2.2% and paying 0.2% is not a few $1,000s. It quietly siphons away more than $300,000 of their final wealth. $300,000 gone. Not to a bad market, not to a crash, but purely to fees. The better alternative is to move to a low-cost ETF and reclaim your own retirement. The fourth drain is newer, and it is psychological. It is the phenomenon the whole country has started calling tipping creep or tipflation. You know the exact moment. You buy a single coffee, or drop off dry cleaning, or grab a muffin at the bakery counter, and the terminal spins around to face you. Suddenly there are three big buttons: 18, 20, 25%, and a small, faintly guilty option to skip. Nobody carried anything to your table. Nobody provided real service, but the screen is watching, the barista is watching, and the pressure is real. So you tap, and you overpay, on autopilot. Here is the distinction wealthy people have quietly trained themselves to make. There is genuine service, the server who looked after you through a 2-hour meal. And there is the guilt tax, a prompt engineered to make a machine transaction feel like a personal favor. Tipping generously for real service is grace. Tipping a screen for handing you a pastry is just a tax you agreed to out of politeness. The better alternative is not to become cheap, it is to become deliberate. Reward true service warmly. Decline the guilt tax without flinching. The button has no feelings. Your budget does. The fifth and final drain is the one we are most reluctant to admit: the logo tax. It is the $200 leggings for a workout when a $20 pair performs identically. It is the $1,000 winter parka in the GTA and the Lower Mainland, chosen not for warmth, but for the small badge on the sleeve that other people are meant to recognize. You are not buying performance, you are renting status, and the rent is punishingly high. Here is what almost nobody selling you that logo wants you to understand. Real wealth in Canada is quiet. The people who are genuinely secure are, more often than not, the ones you would walk right past. They do not need a visible brand to prove anything, because the proof is sitting in their investment accounts, not stitched onto their jacket. The louder the logo, the more often it is covering for an emptier balance sheet. The better alternative is to buy for function and buy for durability, and to let the quiet confidence of actual security replace the anxious confidence of a label. Now let us hold up the mirror. Add these 5 drains together, and, for a typical household, they quietly bleed off around $400 every month. It rarely feels like a choice. It feels like the start of the work week, the same automatic routine, the same taps and buttons. And that is the moment the realization lands, that you are working nearly 5 hours a week just to pay for packaging, not value. So picture the reverse. Picture redirecting that same $400 a month, not into deprivation, just into a low-cost global ETF, and leaving it alone for 20 years. That quiet, boring, redirected money grows to over $250,000. That is the wealth mirror. The exact same dollars that were leaking out through convenience and logos, turned around, become $250,000 of freedom. So this was never really about coffee, or gasoline, or a jacket. It is about a single question you get to answer every single day: value or brand. True wealth in Canada is not a number you show people. It is margin, the gap between mere survival and genuine freedom. Every one of these 5 drains is a tiny direct debit against that margin, quietly signing your future away, one tap at a time. You do not have to give up your life to fix this. You just have to perform the manual override. Reclaim the packaging money, redirect it, and stop letting your impulses direct debit your future away. If you learned something, make sure to like this video and hit subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.